Brazilian Shirt Name Podcast with Dotun Adebayo and Tim Vickery.
Yeah, Tim, as ever, is in Rio, as in De Janeiro. And we've got with us today Theo Delaney from Life Goals with Theo Delaney podcast, which you can find where you get your normal podcasts from. Theo, good to have you with us.
Thanks. Great to be here again. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, this is our Global Soccer Interactive part of the Brazilian Shirt Name podcast, which means you can join in, of course. All you have to do is hit on those chat buttons there and holler at us, and we'll bring you on. It'd be great to have a voice and a name to go with the picture as well, if you know what I mean. But yeah, do make sure as well that you subscribe to the podcast and you join us on our WhatsApp group. So Theo, let's kick off with talk about the Premier League. Well, in fact, before that, we should really talk about Swindon Town being kicked out of this competition for the Football League for fielding two ineligible players. The unparalleled and irascible but yet very unique and original Ian Holloway, coach of Swindon Town, said it was a major whoopsie. Sounded like Michael Crawford in in Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. It was a whoopsie, more than a whoopsie. It was flipping illegal and all, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were in contravention of the rules. I mean, I think he did even acknowledge. Yeah, I mean, yes. He was furious, wasn't he, about the whole affair? But he wasn't furious with his own people. He was furious with the authorities.
There's all that interference coming in. Anyway,
that's strange. Really weird.
Yeah, I've got this interference. Is it the aliens from Brazil? Tim?
It's like an old-fashioned. Remember, we used to get a cross line in the old days, a bit like that. It used to be great if you got a good one.
It was one of those things that you saw in the Hollywood movies where there was a little lady who was, behind the wall she was sitting in, and she was connecting everybody, and she was listening into everybody's conversation as well. Oh, yeah. Mrs. Johnson at number 4 just got a new cat. Okay, let me put you through. Got one of those now. Hopefully, I think it's one of the lines.
Oh, there it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Brilliant. Okay, let's kick this conversation off. We've done Swindon Town. Premier League wise, Tim wants to know: have Arsenal won it yet?
Well, sadly, it looks that way, doesn't it? I think. I mean, a lot of people are saying, "Oh no, they can be caught. They're mentally fragile and all that." But the trouble is, the teams trying to catch them don't look like they don't really look like they're going to do it. Every time you think City are getting up ahead of steam, it turns out they're not. And I'm concerned about it for two reasons, good reasons. One, they're playing very, very ugly football and it's bad for football. And two, it's Arsenal.
Leave them alone. They've worked hard for it. However, I do take your point that it's not the prettiest football, but wouldn't you bite your hands off to be in their position and, whatever type of football you're faced with, that it's progressing, that you're achieving results and you're distancing yourself from the chasing pack. Wouldn't you like to be in that position?
Dotun, you're talking to a man who cried and sobbed in a stadium in Bilbao only a matter of months ago and saw his team play absolutely atrocious football to lift a trophy. So I'm not going to quit. If I was an Arsenal fan, I wouldn't be worried at all about that. No, I just want to win the bloody thing. And that's the nature of football fans, isn't it? I just think obviously I don't want to see Arsenal win anything. That's one thing. But putting that aside, I don't think it's that healthy for our game if a team wins the league playing like that. In fact, I can't even remember off the top of my head the last time a team did win the league playing like that. I mean, if you think back, all the teams that have won the league, I mean, none of the Man United teams played like that. Chelsea, I suppose, once or twice played some pretty grim, pragmatic football in winning it. But I think if you're an Arsenal fan, fair enough. But for the rest of us, it's disturbing.
Are you simply accusing them then of? Oh, we've got that noise back. Are you
Nope.
simply accusing them then of playing for set pieces? Is that the ugly part for you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of their game is about physicality. It's about time wasting right from the start. It's about long throws, corners, and lumping it in the area, and and basically just sort of powering it over the line best they can. I mean, I think one of their top scorers is own goals because they get ricochets from those corners. They spend a lot of time playing the percentages. Now you can say there's nothing wrong with that. They're playing within the rules. Um, and I think it's because Arteta is naturally just a total control freak, and he's found a way of minimizing the uncontrollable parts of the game. So if you make sure you don't have too much open play in the game, and you make sure that you make the absolute most of your set pieces, and that you're physically very strong, that's your best bet in terms of controlling the game. And I think that's what's happened. And why it's worrying is if it catches on.
Yeah, well, it may do. People might look at that. You know how these football things work. Looking at the table, though, at that chasing pack, obviously Man City and Villa are in pole positions
Yeah.
behind Arsenal. And then Man United, who seem to a certain extent unstoppable. It feels like the winds or the gods of the winds of destiny are behind them.
Yeah.
For want of a better way of putting it. And then Chelsea, okay, they're about 13 points behind. They look unlikely. Would you rule them out of it, if not Man United as well?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, I think that the trouble is, all of these teams could get on a run because they've all got really good players. You never know, but then you've got Arsenal have got to drop a lot of points, and they've got to win every game. I mean, if you're 13 points behind Arsenal at this stage, you're looking at you need a miracle. Manchester United are playing pretty miraculously, but again, they're so far behind, 12 points. So really, you're looking at Villa and City. Villa, I don't think anyone's really ever taken Villa seriously um, as a title contender. And I think City are the only real hope, but they just seem flaky, don't they? That's the thing. They seem a lot more. I mean, Arsenal come unstuck every now and then. They lost at home to Manchester United the other week, as we know. But City seem more prone to it, and they're already 6 points off it.
Yeah. It's funny. You should say that, everybody writes Villa off. I look at them as the more likely to. Man City, I think, are in something of a state of flux. It should come good for Man City, given their January transfer signings, particularly in terms of Semenyo and Mark Gahey. It should come, maybe it's a bit too early to assess them. Semenyo scored already. Mark Gahey has pretty much been a central figure from the moment he came in. Although, was he to blame for their recent draw against who did they draw with the other day?
I think it might have been Tottenham Hotspur.
I think they did. Is that right, Tim? Do you remember that draw?
Yes, I remember it well.
Yeah, because I think Pep Guardiola called that a home win to them lot. Sorry, an away win to them lot. Because he was unhappy about some refereeing decision, so he looks at it like they was robbed. Does he have a point? I'm asking two Tottenham supporters. Does he have a point?
No.
Pierre?
No. This is what I'm talking about with City, because you're absolutely right. Once they got Semenyo and Gahey, easily the best two available, ready-made Premier League footballers available in that window. Brilliant. Slot straight in, make a contribution, which is what they've done. You think, well, this could be it. This could be the thing that enables them to actually really, get up. And then that second half, Spurs, for some reason, which nobody can work out, Spurs really clicked in the second half and actually played really well. I mean, that I can count on the fingers of one hand the halves of football where Spurs have played really well this season. So in the Premier League, I don't even need a whole hand. But for some reason, they clicked in that second half. But at the same time, if you're Manchester City and you're going for the title and you've got a 2-goal lead anywhere in any game, you shouldn't let it. You should not be pegged back. And that's why I think they don't seem to have the stuff that is required. Mind you, I mean, Haaland's been off for maybe, you never know. I think they're the best bet, but I'm concerned. But the trouble is, if you're a Spurs fan and Arsenal are 6 points clear in the league, you're preparing yourself mentally for the horror of them maybe winning. So in a strange sort of way, you're biased in favour of that outcome because it's expectation management. I'll leave the country. I might go to South America where Tim is if Arsenal win the title.
Yeah, Ronnie Biggs went there.
I can cope with them winning the title. I can't cope with them winning the Champions League. That's too much for me, that one.
Yeah, absolutely. That would break us all.
Well,
God,
and supposing they won the Carabao Cup and the Champions League and the Premier League, because you're already broken. So what are you going to do? You're going to break yourself some more?
Well, the Champions League would be the last one, wouldn't it? It'd be the last one that they would win.
And then they go on and win the World Cup, essentially. You know, Arsenal players win the World Cup like West Ham players did for us lot. Okay, let's look at the other end of the table, though. Because
can I just throw in one question? Interject a concept of this juncture, as Woody Allen would say. Would it matter that if Arsenal win the league, that they're winning the league in what, to my mind, is the most aesthetically in the Premier League that I can remember for years and years and years?
Yeah,
I think Theo's kind of dealt with that, hasn't he?
I think your question is rhetorical, and I totally agree with you, Tim. It's bad for the game. It's bad for football. It's bad for the Premier League, and it's all round rather ugly.
It apply to Arsenal.
Yeah, it would be.
It doesn't apply to me, just to Arsenal.
It's a joke. Okay, thank you for that.
I think it's general. I think there's something general here, where the game, I think, has got ugly.
Yeah.
A lot of sides have physically built up.
Yeah.
Maybe we blame a little bit, and nothing against the club, the success of Nottingham Forest last season, because it seemed very different what they were doing. You know, low block, counter-attack, but obviously success gets copied. And now I think there are a lot of teams, low block, physicality. And for me, the league as a whole, you might say it's exciting and so on, but in terms of the quality, when football maybe is living this little interregnum where, you know, the possession-based thing of Guardiola maybe ran its course, the very high press of Klopp, maybe that's run its course. I don't know. It looks like, you know, we're waiting for the great leap forward. And in the meantime, we've got a league which I think is very, very physical, but not as aesthetically pleasing as it's been for the last 15 years. Is that fair?
Totally agree. I totally agree. I mean, sit there and watch it and pay a lot of money to do it. You know, sit in a stadium, and a lot of it is you know, kicking lumps out of each other, long throws, you know, lumping it into the box, defending grimly, deep for your lives. All of that stuff, and it's not entertaining, and it's not. It feels like Luddite kind of football, doesn't it? It feels like, you say, maybe we're waiting for the great leap forward. These things happen, don't they? We have these phases in football. The next, and we're waiting for the great leap forward. We've actually done a massive leap back. It feels like we've gone back to, you know, days. You know, I can't even. Like I said, I don't even when Mourinho's teams won the league, they weren't quite as agricultural as a lot of these teams are now. And let's hope there is some sort of tactical innovation to banish it. I hope so.
I'm glad you said agricultural, because I know one of the fans of the Brazilian Shirt Name podcast is probably sitting on his potato harvester right now and watching us live, and might join in. And feel free to join in, by the way, whoever you are and wherever you're listening to us from. But agricultural, yes, but it's still entertaining. I mean, not for you sitting in the stadium, maybe, because you expect more, you know, you want to see more. But I think from a television perspective, the narrative changes in football. But for me, the conundrum of trying to find a way around that narrative, because when you're watching, you know, the low block, as it were, you're thinking, flipping, nobody's ever going to score. How are they going to get through them lot? You know, they're right. Basically, you're parking the bus in front of the goal, aren't you? And it's difficult to see how it's going to work. So you watch people dancing around, passing the ball from side to side to side. And when they manage to pull somebody out of position, when they manage to find the key to do it, it is actually quite breathtaking for me.
Yeah, when they get through, and the thing also to say is that most of the really good teams are still have still got players who can do that and are still trying to do it in that way. They're not, they're not going toe to toe and having a fight. So, players like Wirtz came in this year, who is a great technician. Spurs have got Xavi Simons, is small, he's not physically big, but he is a great technician. And so I think City and Liverpool and two or three other sides are still trying to play the football, and sometimes they do get through. And if you look at the table, even though it's a rather grim, pragmatic team that's at the top, if you look beyond that, I mean, I think City do play good football. United, under Carrick, I think will play decent football. So it's not, I suppose it's not all bad. But yeah, in terms of entertainment, you like to see a high technical level of football when you go and when you're watching the Premier League, because it's supposed to be the best league in the world.
And it costs you a lot of money to get those tickets.
It's crippling. It's cripplingly expensive, and yeah, exactly. So it's like going to the Royal Ballet and seeing a load of clodhoppers come and do a clog dance. I mean, it's not what you're paying for. It's not what you expect.
Have you ever seen that at the Royal Ballet, out of interest?
No, I'm not a ballet man, I must admit.
No, I thought you were a clodhopper man, but I was wondering if you could to the Royal Ballet to see them clodhopping. Looking at the other end of the table, though, Tottenham, your lot, they're not out of it yet, are they?
No, and they've got a tough, as everyone keeps saying, they've got a tough run of, but mind you, the tough run of fixtures has already kicked off, and we got a point in the first game, so you never know. But yeah, Spurs are so unpredictable and generally not good that they're definitely not out of it. I mean, they've got to play Manchester United in Newcastle and Arsenal in the next few games. Could easily come unstuck in all of those games, and then all of a sudden West Ham are having a revival. Forest look like an okay team again. Leeds look like a good team. I mean, Palace are sinking like a stone, but they've already got as many points as us. And suddenly you think this could be quite an interesting five-team relegation scrap with us very much in it. Yeah. On the other hand, if we get some of these injuries clear up and we carry on in the vein that we played in the second half on Sunday, maybe we'll just leave all that behind us. I don't know, but right now it looks like Spurs could get sucked into a relegation battle, and I think the idea of us going down and winning the Champions League in the same year is quite. I like to look into the odds on that. That would be a hell of a double, wouldn't it? Even by Tottenham standards.
Yeah, even by Tottenham standards. But there's only really one position that they're scrapping for. I suppose the five from Tottenham, Crystal Palace, Leeds United, Nottingham Forest, and
and West Ham.
They're only really scrapping for one position, though, aren't they? Because Burnley and Wolves are down.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Although, I mean, Wolves definitely down. Burnley, could they mount a rearguard action at this late stage?
I don't think so. If you look at their form, they haven't won in 6 or 7 games, if at least. And then you look at the actual points; they're 11 points off it right now. So I mean, they need. I mean, fair enough. The thing about the bottom of the table is that teams above them won't be getting many points either, because they're not very good. But to get to just to even claw themselves into the fight seems beyond them if you look at the maths of it and their form.
Who do you think is going to be the third team to go down then? If we say Burnley and Wolves already down, will it be West Ham, or will it be Nottingham Forest? Will it be Leeds United? Like you say, Leeds have been playing really well, and for me, they look like a team that are going to fight their way out of it. They look like they're ready for a scrap. They know what they're in for. If Aronson, who's one of their key players, could be a little bit more disciplined on and off the ball. I feel that he runs around quite a lot and not necessarily effectively. He's got skills, but he could be just a little bit more disciplined on the ball. I think that he could be the key for getting them out of their hole. I don't know why they're not playing Wilfred Gnonto. I don't know whether he's injured or whatever, but he again was from what the previous seasons that we've seen him do, he's a left winger, but he can take the ball and run with it and dribble past one or two players as well along the way. But maybe they don't need him. Maybe they've got the formation that Daniel Farker thinks is the right one. Could they get out of it, or will they get out of it? Who's going to be the third one down?
Well, don't you think Crystal Palace are looking very, very vulnerable now? Everyone's favourite team of last season, and it suddenly seems to have gone all wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know Palace fans are very, very worried. They've done the opposite to Man City. Man City have bought two incredibly good players. They've let Gahey go, which is pretty crazy. They nearly let Mateta go. Actually, that might turn out to be the thing that saves them, the fact that he didn't go, because if he'd gone as well, I mean, they brought in Strand Larsen, haven't they? But the strange thing about Strand Larsen is they paid 50 million quid for him by the time you get the add-ons factored in. And he hardly ever scores a goal. In fact, he wasn't even a regular choice for Wolves. It's a strange one, that. But on the other end, Premier League centre forward.
Remember,
6 foot.
Remember Newcastle was interested in him last season. They wanted him before they wanted Voltemade, didn't they? And I think that might have increased his value, as it were. But you're right, he doesn't score a lot of goals, but you've got to look at his play off the ball as well.
And remember with Palace that Oliver Glasner is not here to stay.
No,
he would rather be anywhere else but here today.
I think that's what started
Elvis reference.
I think that's what started their descent, into mediocrity or worse.
Well, we've seen it before. We've seen it before. Lame duck managers. It never works out. If the players know the guy's going, I don't even think it's a conscious thing. I think subconsciously those players stop being sufficiently scared of him, because they think, well, he's gone at the end of the year anyway. It's not going to be up to him what happens to me, what happens to my contract, or whether I get in the team next season and all that. And so that is possibly the biggest problem they've got. I mean, because I know Palace fans who are extremely worried. They're only going in one direction. I don't think when was the last time they won? I think it's 12 games ago or something. It was the last time they won. And, that's the worry. Once you get into this part of the season, we're well past halfway, and it's the direction you're going in as much as anything, isn't it? And they are very much going in the wrong direction. And they're only they're 9 points ahead of West Ham. But West Ham have started to play a bit, haven't they? Don't laugh. They really, I've seen them. They have.
They have. And although the one thing that might give Crystal Palace some hope is if you look at their fixtures, in the coming weeks, they're playing, remarkably, they're playing Burnley and they're playing Wolves a little bit more than a week after that. They've got a couple of European games which they could probably live without. But when you look at those two, and then they'll get the chance to play, I think Leeds will probably beat them. I think Leeds will probably beat them, to be honest. But but they've got the chance to play the teams around them, is the point I was trying to make. And West Ham later on as well. So they've got the chance to play all the teams, two of which haven't thrown in the towel yet.
Yeah, that can work either way, couldn't it?
Yeah.
That could be very good for them, or it could be very bad.
Yeah, because they're 6 pointers. Well, the ones against West Ham and Leeds could well be 6 pointers, couldn't they? I mean, Burnley and Wolves, as we said, look like they've gone. But on the other hand, sometimes those sort of teams play with a bit of freedom, don't they? I mean, but on the other, if they can beat Burnley and Wolves, that's 6 incredibly valuable points in the bag, and they look, they look like they might be all right. But if they don't, if they fail to win those games, then by the time they play Leeds, I don't know what the order of these games are, but when they play Leeds, that is a high pressure game, and West Ham as well, perhaps even more. What with it being a derby and everything.
Yeah, I've got a feeling Crystal Palace will survive somehow. I'm just, if they get knocked out of the Europa Conference League, then they've only got one. And even Oliver Glasner, I'm sure, doesn't want to leave the club with a demotion, does he?
No.
Yeah.
No. The funny thing is about that league, the league they're in is really low quality, isn't it? Because if you think last year, the final of the Europa League was between 15th and 17th in the Premier League. This league is below that. So actually, Glasner being Glasner's thinking, well, I'm off at the end of the season. I wouldn't mind a European trophy to stick back on the CD. He won one with Frankfurt, didn't he? That would be a great calling card when I go looking for another job. And really, on paper, I think actually at the beginning of this season, at the beginning of the European Conference League, I don't know what the situation is now. Palace were favourites for it for the very obvious reason they were the Premier League team in it. So actually, it's quite a weird one that, because as you say, in a way, they'd be better off out of it. But on the other hand, from Glasner's point of view, maybe he fancies it. And actually, also the players. I mean, last year it was so bizarre with Tottenham playing so poorly in the Premier League, but I think the players, rather than the manager, the players got a whiff of glory in the old nostrils and really were complete. It was a total Jekyll and Hyde situation, and they were a completely different team in Europe. Very pragmatic. They did what was necessary, and they lifted a trophy. So that makes it fascinating, the Crystal Palace thing. Glasner going, the fact they're in a winnable European competition, but that in the Premier League they're heading south at a rate of knots. It's really it's a fascinating set of. All I will say is I've had one of my Life Goals guests, Paul Greengrass, the Hollywood film director. He's almost certain they're going to go down. He's in a state of high anxiety, to quote Mel Brooks.
You both seem determined to talk about your mob. So let's talk about Man United versus Tottenham. This will be at Old Trafford, and they've got their tails up at Old Trafford.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of Paul Greengrass with high anxiety. I got it. Premier League status. I don't got it no more.
Very good. Yeah. So let's go to the Theatre of Dreams on Saturday. Early kickoff as well. I don't know how you lot fancy an early kickoff, but they've got their tails up at Old Trafford. The fans expect nothing less than front foot forward and the exciting football they've seen under the reign of Carrick. What can Tottenham put up as what can Thomas Frank put up as a defence against an all-attacking Manchester United?
Well, I mean, I think it's a game to really look forward to for the neutrals, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, anything could happen in it. Manchester United now playing much more open, attacking, and free football. They all look like they're enjoying it again. At home is great. Spurs obviously are way better away, generally speaking, than they are at home in the Premier League. So, and on the back of that second half, don't forget also they played well in the second half against City. They also played very well in Europe in the game before that. Against whoever it was, Frankfurt, wasn't it? Yeah, they absolutely. And this with all the injuries. Now, this weekend, from what I gather, I've just had some team news. They've just released team news on the official site. And I think Van der Ven and Romero will be fit. Spence may even be fit. So it's a game, really, honestly, if I was a neutral, I'd really be looking forward to that because of the way United are playing, because Spurs are good away. I think anything could happen. I think there'll be goals.
I think there definitely will be goals. There's no doubt about that. Can't see that being a 0-0 draw, Tim. But whose job, Tim, do you think it will be? Whose job, for Manchester United's perspective, will it be to wind up Christian Romero and get him sent off early? Will that be the job of Matheus Cunha, do you think? Will it be? Because he's good at winding defenders up, central defenders up. Romero's bound to get sent off. We all know that. So, whose job do you think it will be? Neither of you are going to take that bait. Okay, then fair enough.
Well, I thought Tim was going to step in there because it's always a South American. Do you remember that incredible game where they played Chelsea and they got, ended up with 9 men, but were still playing with the defence lined up in the halfway line under Ange, and they got Romero sent off that night.
It was the first time. Yeah.
And it was the South Americans that went for him. And I think Pochettino there was a break in play, and Pochettino got old Enzo Fernandez and one of the others, I can't remember which one, and said, look, we're going to have to they're all over us. We're going to get Romero sent off. You know what to do. And that's exactly what they did. And I think, so it's interesting. You mentioned Cunha. He could be the man for the job. Or I tell you what, that Martinez, he's a right brute, isn't he? You could see him and getting hold of, he could do a Nicky. Do you remember that? Do you ever hear that story where Nicky Butt and Dennis Wise?
I remember it First game of the season at Stamford Bridge, and Dennis Wise pinches Nicky Butt in the nuts.
Yeah.
Nicky Butt
Yeah.
completely loses it, knees him or punches him or whatever it is, gets sent off straight away.
Yeah.
I think one more United player got sent off as well, so they were down to 9 men, as I recall. But anyway,
Right.
they lost about 5 or 6-0, didn't they? Then?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
remember
think
it so
Martinez, he might have that in his locker. What do you think, Tim?
Well, I think with Romero, I don't know how long he's going to be at the club, and he seems very, very keen on talking his way out, doesn't it? And I think these are the last few months. I think he's disgusted when the fact that it's the most profitable club in the Premier League, and they didn't reinforce seriously in the window. Now, I think that's probably the last straw for him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, of course, we're all with him. We've never, as a captain, made a more a kind of had an outburst that was more, that had the fans more behind it, because he's basically voicing exactly the same frustrations that all the fans have got. But I don't think it would have gone down very well upstairs. You're right, and he could well be off in the summer, I think.
So are we chalking that one as a Man United win then?
I think it'd be a high-scoring draw.
High-scoring draw. Are you clutching it onto straws there? High-scoring draw. What, a 4-4, do you think?
Maybe. It'd be great, wouldn't it?
Okay. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. It would be fantastic if it was. For us neutrals, it would be fantastic. We'll all be wondering, how on earth did Man United throw that one away? However, there are other matches to consider, as well as Man United versus Tottenham. We've got Leeds United versus Nottingham Forest tomorrow evening, as in Friday evening here. Now, that's a 6-pointer in all, isn't it?
Well,
what do you fancy out of Leeds and Nottingham Forest?
It definitely is a 6-pointer at this stage, isn't it? If you look at the table, I mean, these are the two teams that are just above the relegation zone. They know that the 3 points in that game is absolutely invaluable to at least maintain the gap with West Ham. So again, very watchable. It'll be quite. I'm sure it'll be quite grim and desperate. I mean, the way Forest still set up away from home at Leeds, they'll really want to sort of grind it out. But I think it'll be worth watching that one. And I think, but I don't know. I'd like to think. Well, I've got a little, weirdly, no football fan in England has ever said this outside of the Leeds area, but I've got a bit of a soft spot for Leeds. I just want them to stay up because I just think the top flight's better with Leeds in it. Mind you, I feel the same about Nottingham Forest because they're both clubs that make me feel nostalgic. Because of the age I am, I think these are clubs that should be in the top flight, Leeds and Forest. That's why it doesn't really bother me if, Burnley go down, really, because Burnley have always been a bit of a. I mean,
no, that's not fair. I thought you were nostalgic for those.
I'm not that old. Burnley,
you've
got to go back to the 60s.
Colin Jones, you don't remember him? Flipping.
Yeah, I do remember him actually. Leighton James. Leighton James was a good player, wasn't he?
Was.
Martin Dobson.
I can't remember Martin Dobson. I went to school with a guy called Martin Dobson. I'm sure it wasn't the same one though.
He was good.
Yeah, it was really good.
Colin Jones was Ipswich. Doesn't really count.
Am I thinking of Burnley then?
Yeah.
I can see those little playing cards. I can see him in his Burnley top, but I thought it was Jones. So apologies there. But whoever goes down, it's going to be not very pleasant. I think it's fair to say. But I don't have the same love for Leeds as you do, any more than I have for Nottingham Forest. But I do think Leeds will win that one. Like I said earlier on, they just have something about them. Nottingham Forest are fighters, no problem with that. But they're also playing in the European tournaments at the moment, which must knacker them up a little bit. And they don't seem to me as determined to distance themselves from the bottom three as Leeds. Leeds just seem to be all out for saving themselves. And I think because they've only just come up as well, they don't want to go back down. Nottingham Forest have been up for a while and had a great season last season. I think they might be reading from that. But for me, that's Leeds. How about you, Tim? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I really think that the influence of Forest has been really big on sides like Leeds and Sunderland. You know, because if you look at the sides that were coming up before, like say Southampton under Russell Martin, they were trying to play out from the back. They were trying to play pretty. And I think last season was a key season in, you know what, that model doesn't work. Let's do something else. And everyone was looking at them, what Forest were doing and how much above their weight they were able to punch with that low block. And I think that's a factor in the switch in emphasis in the Premier League this year, and why it's become such a brute. Did you see what Anthony Gordon was saying the other day about the difference between the Premier League and the Champions League? You know, the Premier League's almost like become a basketball game now. You know, big teams, low blocks, running up and down. For me, it's such a disappointing season for that reason. Nothing against Forest. You know, everyone's entitled, as Bobby Womack used to sing, you know, everyone works out their own bag.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and thank you for the Bobby Womack. And I do appreciate all the musical references as well. But as far as Burnley and West Ham are concerned, I mean, that's Leeds United. Leeds United versus Nottingham Forest might be a 6-pointer for the teams just above the relegation zone. But Burnley versus West Ham, I mean, first of all, West Ham have got to take all 3 points. Nothing less is acceptable. I'd have thought, you know, I know it's away at Burnley, but I think, you know, if they don't get that result, the fans back home in the East End of London will have something to say about that one. You know, however, it's Burnley, and it is the battle of the Claret and Blues. Who's going to win it, Theo?
Well, the thing about West Ham is my brothers support West Ham, so I feel it, you know, and I feel their pain and I feel their joy, which is, let's face it, which is much more the former than the latter. But you just know with West Ham that once they start looking good, something terrible is going to happen, and losing to Burnley would be exactly the sort of thing that you know they're capable of doing. I mean, Burnley, the thing about the Premier League, and I think one of the good things about the Premier League is, as you know, it's often said, and I think it's probably truer than ever, is that anyone can really beat anyone. And Burnley, I've seen, but you know, Burnley played Spurs recently. It was a 2-2 draw. It was a very even game. And Spurs also played West Ham recently and lost, and I felt a bit unfortunate. You know, could have gone either way. So I've seen them recently, and I think it will be close. But I think Burnley could beat West Ham, and I just have to try not to be too amused. Obviously, not in front of me, brothers. Otherwise, I get a punch in the face.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Easy to make a prediction here, isn't it? Clan Blues are going to win.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. See what the bookies will give you on that.
Tim, let's look at what's happening from a South American perspective now. We've covered much of the Premier League, not all of the Premier League, but certainly a lot of the good stuff in the Premier League. Oh, we've got Dele Alli with us as well. Apologies, Dele Alli. I didn't realise you were joining us.
Bring him in.
Dele Alli. Let's talk, mate. Yeah, I'm glad that you found a little cubbyhole in your workplace to talk to us. Make sure that's a regular appointment in any case. Yeah, we've got Theo with us as well. What do you want to say?
Yeah, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me on. I was going to say a couple things, but first, I don't understand. We're talking about this Western ham. I thought this was an agriculture show, not pork commodities. What are we doing here?
That's good.
Let's get back to the grain and barley. Come on.
You asked for that, Theo. You got it. It's clearly on the jaw.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well done, you.
I was just going to say, because, you know, it came up a lot, and I referenced this, I think, the last time I was on, or maybe before that, about my the university I attended winning in the most improbable season ever in the gridiron football, and a lot of people comparing it to Leicester. And Tim was sort of earlier in this episode qualifying Arsenal's potential title. You know, it's not over yet. But by saying, because it's, you know, been a rough and tumble season and there's not as much Jogo Bonito in the Premier League this year, that he's qualifying it that it doesn't mean quite as much as, you know, Manchester City winning the Premier League with 110 points, playing beautiful football, etc. And I would say, again, back to Leicester, I think they won with 83 points, and that was a year where Chelsea was down, Man United was down, Liverpool, Arsenal finished second, all the big clubs had a down year that year, and then a year or two later, Liverpool loses the title with 100 points or 95, something like that. So a title is a title. Every year is its own year. And I'm curious, here's another analogy for a game that Tim loves to talk about, and I love to hear him wax poetic. The 92 Champions League final in Wembley, Sampdoria, Barcelona, right? And if Sampdoria plays a little bit differently, do they win that game instead of trying to play with flair and things like that? So I don't know. Every season's a little different, and if the way to win for Arsenal right now is play a little more rough and tumble and to really pack the box, then whatever works, I guess. But I'm curious too, because Tim also talked a lot this past summer. A lot of teams, and not necessarily Arsenal, but a lot of teams are dealing with the the extended Club World Cup, and there were international fixtures last summer, and it just feels like everyone's exhausted. I think there's a lot of players that have really underperformed this Premier League season. And I wonder if they're in that dreaded red zone. If anyone remembers the big discussion about that with Alexis Sanchez after he played, 6 summers in a row with, 6 seasons in a row with no breaks. And, because you see that with our Crystal Palace friend named after Bukayo Saka, from the other show, but the actual Bukayo Saka hasn't really delivered much in terms of goals or assists recently. He just doesn't. He looks a step slow.
Yeah, that
And
injury,
he's an injury,
didn't he? Yeah, and he's come back from that injury not the same. Not the only player, of course, who comes out from injury not being the same. But the strange thing about Bukayo Saka, though, I'd have thought, Theo, is that the fans are still 100% behind him, and it seems as if Arteta is still, his preferred option is to build the team around Bukayo Saka. So he's not getting the kind of vitriol that somebody who's not the same would often get.
Yeah, I mean, also he's been there right from the start. He's very much their guy, isn't he? And it helps that he's likable. He's got loads and loads of brownie points in the bank. I mean, he'd have to have a really poor 6 months for them to start getting on it. Even then, I think they wouldn't get necessarily on his back. They'd just all be like, I mean, reminds me of Dele Alli, actually. Dele Alli had to have about 2 bad years, and we still didn't get on his back. We just knew he had to go,
The other Dele Alli, yeah.
Yeah, the other Dele Alli, yeah. So I think even Tottenham fans like Saka to some extent, certainly when he's playing for England anyway.
Yeah, well, that's a different thing, isn't it? Yeah, then you kind of leave all tribalism behind. We'll come to that. Maybe if we've got the opportunity this time around, though. But what about this Dele Alli's main accusation, which is, Tim, you and Theo both talked about what a dreadful season of football this is. But I'm with him that even in a dreadful season of football, there's a lot to enjoy.
I'm guilty as charged. All of the accusations leveled against me, I have no effective defense. The only one I think would be, I think we're all entitled to appreciate football in our own way. I think there's any one size fits all. We can all, that's one of the great things about it. You can get different things from it. And I am a foppish aesthete. I am. Aesthetics matters to me. You're talking here
Oscar
to
Wilde,
one of those Tottenham fans who wasn't over impressed with Bilbao. Yeah, I am. Yeah, yes, yeah. And Theo was there in Bilbao crying tears of joy. Well, I was shaking my head, thinking, "What a load of absolute rubbish this is." So that's just my personal way of experiencing and feeling football. But I'm quite aware and quite proud of the fact that it's a minority view, and I'm sure that the vast majority of Arsenal fans, especially given the culture of the club, this is the club of Peter Storey, of Willie Young, of Steve Bold, and so on. I remember, Theo, that famous 1991 FA Cup semi-final, just being so struck with the fact that the Arsenal fans were going to the stadium singing about their fullbacks. It was a strange language that I wasn't really used to. But at the end of the day, a title's a title.
Can I also provide a different perspective, one from the international side? I learned about Arsenal in 2003, I think, or maybe 2000. I think it was winter of fall 2002 into 2003. I thought that was normal that they would the next season going undefeated and winning the league. I thought that was normal for Arsenal. But every it's been face planned ever since. But for me, that was Arsenal, was that team, the Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira. So I didn't have these references that you all have of what Arsenal was like in the 80s and 90s and boring Arsenal and all that stuff. I've learned about it since, but for me, this is sort of a different style. But again, it's about results. And I think for Arsenal fans, I mean, they're a little, even in the stadium, they're a little crazy, right? They were booing the team off at halftime, I think, against Man United.
Yeah.
It's like, you're in first place. Let's settle down. Like they can afford a loss or two, but I get it. Everyone's just so on edge and is hoping that they finally get over the line, and they'll take it any way it comes.
As we all know, if you want to find out,
I think a subheading for this season would be Woolwich on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Tim, I don't even know why
Perfect.
I fell for giving you the opportunity to bring up geographical locations in London. Yeah, mate, the kid's from Louisville, Kentucky. He doesn't get it. Leave him alone. No, what I was going to say, one year I suggested to my boss, that very year that you're talking about, that Arsenal went the season undefeated, I suggested to my boss to do a documentary, an audio documentary, and I was going to call it Scoring Arsenal, because they scored in every match, rather than boring Arsenal, which was a narrative. My boss turned around to me and said, "That's a rubbish idea." But he was, of course, a Liverpool fan, and he didn't think that was a good idea whatsoever. However, what people call boring with Arsenal, and this is the landscape I grew up in, I can assure you, reflects, as we all know, the people that were living around the Arsenal football ground at the time. Just like much of what Tottenham is about, reflects the kind of the demographics of the people that were living around that area at the time. There were around Arsenal, in fact, my younger brother lived on one of these estates, and I lived in his flat for quite a while. There are a lot of, or were, still are, I suppose, working class estates around it, and they're working class estates surrounded by a lot of wealth, really, and to survive in there, they're resilient. It's not boring. It's kind of, there's a resilience about them that they would have appreciated Arsenal's defensive, priorities, because it showed a kind of resilience. And with Tottenham, as you know, it's all about, come on, let's go out on a Saturday night and let's rock it. Let's show our style. Let's show, what Tottenham calls, and I have a lot of love for Tottenham, as you know anyway. But what Tottenham calls, playing with flair or whatever, that's just how we were. The Royal was the nightclub up the road from Tottenham. Literally, can't be up to half a mile, quarter of a mile away from the stadium. The Royal is where you went out on a Saturday night and you dressed up as if you were going to the Queen's coronation. And that included the Cray twins, who were regulars there, and all the sort of old school East End Cockneys. They dressed sharply when they went out on a Saturday night. Whatever they were doing on Cazenove Road, killing Jack the Hat McVitie or whatever it might be, that wasn't a weekday, but on a Saturday night they went out and they dressed up, and that's what Tottenham reflects more than anything, in my view, in my humble opinion. Anyway, Dele Alli, do you want to say?
I remember learning a word. I remember learning a word in a description about Tottenham supporters. It was ersatz. Anyone know what ersatz mean? I didn't when I read it.
It means false, doesn't it? Doesn't it mean fake?
Yeah. And it was an objective thing about the difference between Tottenham and Arsenal supporters, and it said Tottenham supporters are in search of ersatz sophistication. And I thought, that's me. That's me. Phony as they come. Guilty as charged.
That's right. Nothing wrong with that at all. Go on, tell us what's happening in Brazil.
The Italians.
Stay with us if you want to. Daniel, what's happening in South America in terms of football that we should think about?
Well, Lucas Paquetá is back. I was in the stadium for his home debut last night. Do you know how long it took him to get a yellow card?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Sold to the man.
Oh, I've got it right.
3 minutes.
I've got it right.
Yellow. 3 minutes.
I've got it right. So he's back. He's back. He's back. Like James Brown. Get up off of that thing. Yeah.
Indeed. 3 minutes. And he's also heard the first boos as well. You know, he's the returning hero has already been booed. Brazilian fans are absolutely brutal. Neymar turns 34 today. That's a worrying statistic, isn't it? For those of us who see him as an eternal adolescent. Now, I remember when I turned 34, you could party like it was 1999 because it was. Neymar has had to wait till 2026. It's a scary stat, I think, that he's 34. But an even more scary stat for him is that there are, I think it's tomorrow, 18 weeks until the World Cup, meaning that he's got maybe 15 weeks from a standing start to get back in the World Cup squad. There was a hope that he was going to play last night, that he was going to make his comeback from this knee operation. They didn't risk him in the end. Looks like he might play in the weekend, but Ancelotti is taking a hard line with him. He's saying, all right, he'll go if he earns it, if he deserves it. It's a kind of what have you done for us lately type line. Now, you are an icon to some people over here. You're Brazil's all-time top scorer. Not interested. What can you do now? So that's a real race against time. A story this week as well that Newell's Old Boys would like to get Messi back next year, just for a last hurrah. Not sure what Messi thinks about this. It would be a big strain for his family to take his kids back to the city of Rosario, living in an absolute goldfish bowl. So I'm inclined to think that he would be tempted because it's very, very sentimental, you know, to go back to the knob. But I don't think that it's probably the best thing for his family. So we shall see if what happens with that one.
I'm not sure you should use the word knob in association with Messi. Sorry, Daniel.
They shouldn't be called Newell's Old Boys and write their initials all over the place, should they?
Shouldn't be called Messi Knob.
Oh,
indeed, yes. Clean it up for crying out loud.
I was just going to add two things onto that for some interesting context. If I ever get to go on Life Goals one day, one of them is going to be getting to see Neymar's debut, which was in the United States, in just outside of New York, actually, where they're going to host the World Cup final. Whatever that was now, 14 years ago or something. He was 18 years old. It was that August
16.
friendly right after the World,
16
years ago. Yeah, that's right. 2010, right after the World Cup. And I think he scored, if I remember right. And so, and everybody knew he was like the best player on the park at that age. He was incredible. And the other thing is there is
you should write a book about that, you know, honestly.
That would be cool.
That's history you're talking about now.
Yep. I was up in the cheap seats, but you could still see it from all the way back there.
You were there.
And one other thing is there's cottage industry might not be the right word, but there's like almost every week there are videos that come out of people sneaking around the grocery store or a mall or something, and they're like, look, here's Messi looking for clothes, here's Messi looking for cereals for his kids. And people keep running into him in these public spaces and getting a quick selfie and sort of sneaking around taking a video of him like, look, it's regular Miami dad just like going shopping for his children. So we're gonna miss that if he leaves.
Oh my goodness. But I suppose I feel for him though. You know, he's under the spotlight even in the States, whereas I think David Beckham went under the radar, didn't he, when he was in the States? I seem to remember he wasn't as well known. He was able to like ride his motorcycle around Los Angeles without anybody noticing, oh, there's David Beckham. But I think football in the States has come a long way since then. So
Well,
these-
especially in South Florida, where there's so many more Spanish speakers and people who pay more attention to football anyway. Los Angeles obviously has a lot of. I'm sure there were lots of people who knew David Beckham, but there's also so many people who are just there to try and get into Hollywood, and they don't care about who he is as long as he's not in the movie industry or TV industry now or whatever. So there's certain places in the country. Miami for Messi is not one of them where you can really have
most of them,
anonymity. Sorry,
Tim?
Tim.
most of them are pumping gas and parking cars. Do you know the way to San Jose?
Fucking cars. Yeah. I'm not going to argue with that. But in Los Angeles, when I lived there, most of the Mexicans, and I promise you, I'm not saying this disparagingly at all, or many Mexicans, I should say more correctly, were selling oranges for an unbelievable $1 for about 10 huge oranges.
It's the song.
telephone
Do
bag.
you know the way?
Okay.
And all
No, I
the
do know.
stars that never were
I-
are pumping gas and parking cars.
Oh, is that where it's from? Oh, I get it. So I took it much more literally. I apologize.
Yes.
When I realized that you actually had heard of Janet Jackson earlier on, I thought, oh my goodness, he knows his music. I better not take the mickey out of him. Yeah, I should consider that. Look, it's that time when we wrap up this conversation anyway. I think we've had a good one. And Daniel, can't do it without you. Feel free to join us anytime. And anybody else listening, if you want to join in,
Thank you very
come
much.
on like Daniel has as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Don't forget, we do it every Wednesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Make sure you subscribe, as it says down there, and also join our WhatsApp group as well. Until then, Theo Delaney from Life Goes with Theo Delaney even. Yeah. Thank you. And of course, people can get your podcast wherever they get their podcasts as well. Yeah. And Tim Vickery, whose book is coming out very soon. And so we'll see you over here. Then hopefully the Spuds won't have been relegated by the time you come over, mathematically at least. And well, I have to say something. He stuck the boot into Arsenal so many times. I'm just a balancing act, aren't I? You know? But yeah, great to have you all with us. Yeah, let's do it again very soon.
Get in touch with the Brazilian Shirt Name Podcast on Twitter at BrazilShirtPod, or you can email us brazilianshirtnamepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate and tell a friend. The Brazilian Shirt Name Podcast is an 1129 production.